Paul Ryan is the prime example of people that don't get it, okay? So he's talking and he's like, I don't know, I guess he said something about Rage Against the Machine. Like, I've always been a fan of Rage Against the Machine. And was like, but then they, like, had a political song or something. I don't know. Something happened where he finally realized that something they did was political, and he was like, if only I had known. Like, the name of the band did not give you any clue. And, like, Tom Morello came out and was, like, talking about it, and he's like, does Paul Ryan not realize that he is the part of the exact machine we were raging against? Like, all these, like, boys, you know what I mean? And they're adults, they're in their 40s, but they're boys. They hear these bands and they hear these things and they misunderstand it completely and then go off whenever they're like, oh, they're political, or, like, try to act like, well, not that kind of feminist. Like, I tried to tell there was a video on YouTube, and it was examples of how Kurt Cobain was a feminist, and it was, like, titled, Kurt Cobain was a feminist. All these comments from these, like, boys that were like, dude, he would not be he wouldn't like the feminist of today. He was a feminist back then. He wouldn't be one today. Like, he wouldn't like the way they are today. And I'm like, listen to the things he says. He was saying the same thing people are saying today back then. He was ahead of his time on that crap. I'm telling you what, like, it's exactly the same stuff. Like, he's like, it's ridiculous that, there's not more women in music and, like, all this stuff that people, like, well, we can't just let them be musicians because that's not fair to men because they're going to take our jobs away from us. It's like, nobody's taking anything from you. You can be there. Like, it's so annoying. But yes, he freaking would be a feminist today. Like, you're trying to come, like, they get turned red in the face and get all flustered because they don't know how to make excuses for it. It's like, I hate women, but, like, I like Kurt Cobain, but he said, if you're sexist, don't listen to my music. I don't care if you like me, I hate you. Like, he literally said, if you're racist or sexist or homophobic, that he hates you. And then you're listening to Nirvana being like, oh yeah, like, smells like Teen Spirit, which that song doesn't really mean much, but, like, there were guys that, like, listened to the song Rape Me and raped someone and sang that song, and, like, Kurt found out and was, like, freaking very upset about it. Like, he put a note in it about it in one of the CD covers, like, you are a piece of garbage and I hate you. Like, that's, you totally suck, like, he was, like, really mad about it. He's like, don't twist my words, don't, like, and if you take it literally, like, you can say, like, well, that song just sounds, it's not hard to misunderstand. Why did he write one like that? The song says rape me. So, like, if you're actually going to take it literal, you could rape Kurt. You know what I mean? Like, why didn't you try to rape him? You know what I mean? Like, he was talking about, like, if you took it 100% literal, like, you would try to rape him, not some random girl. Like, she didn't write the song, like, you know what I mean? So, you can't use that excuse. So, anyway, like, but it was anti-rape. He was so anti-rape and anti-sexism and racism and homophobia. Like, Kurt thought he was gay for a long time when he was, like, a teenager, and because of toxic masculinity. Like, he didn't call it toxic masculinity because those words weren't readily available to him. He would have. He definitely would have, okay? He would have been an SJW for sure. And, but he was talking about toxic masculinity, like, the things he described. Like, he grew up, like, with his dad trying to pressure him into liking football and all these masculine things, and he didn't like any of that stuff. He liked music, and he liked art, and he was sensitive, and, he wasn't all tough, and he liked being friends with girls more than being friends with guys. So he was like, am I gay because I like all this? Which, he didn't have a problem with it. Like, he wasn't like, I don't want to be, but well, he probably struggled, just, because of everything, but anyway. And then he realized, like, no, I'm not gay, I'm not like other guys. But, like, it's not really like other guys. It's just, I'm not what, like, you know, he wasn't what society expected him to be as a guy. And that's why I like all these grunge bands, like, a lot, I think, because, and what sucks is there aren't enough females in that category, but it's not, you know, it's not the other band's fault, it's just, like, society, you know, like, Kurt complained about there not being enough girl rockers and all this stuff, and there's not, still, and, but the thing is, like, those kind of bands, like Chris Cornell and Eddie Vedder, like, I literally love this video of a concert where Eddie Vedder just, like, he goes off on this dude. He's like, some guy, I guess, is, like, assaulting this girl or, like, harassing her and touching her. Like, he's, like, physically touching her, I guess. You can't see them, but you can see Eddie. And he's, like, in the middle of a song, and he's like, no, stop. And he's like, you right there, get your hands off of her. And I'm like, yes. He, like, stopped the show to make a guy leave a girl alone. And I'm like, and he kicked him out. He's like, you leave, get out. And it's amazing. And, you know, Chris used to joke about it. He's like, all these jock guys don't like us because, and, like, guys these days are like, oh yeah, I knew Soundgarden was the best. I was so into them. They're heavy metal. They're awesome, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you weren't. You were into Guns N' Roses, and you thought Soundgarden was for wimps. Almost another word for that, but, like, honestly, I remember being, like, a young teenager, and I'm like, yes, Chris Cornell is so hot, and I love this, I love it all. And everybody was like, well, they're kind of girly, they're too soft, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, because they weren't, like, rah, in your face, like, I guess they weren't as manly as Axl, you know, which I don't have a problem with Axl at all. Like, I love Axl, and he's very talented in so many ways. Like, he's very talented, and, you know, I like Guns N' Roses, but, like, just that era, and, like, you're not allowed to like this because it's not hardcore manly enough, you know. And then, like, years later, after Kurt died, and, like, you know, jock people did not like Soundgarden. Like, Chris even said it, like, all these jocks, they hate us because, and Chris was, like, joking about it, and he's like, I think all these jock guys hate our band because we scare them because of how attracted to us they are. Like, they're scared of being attracted to us because we're pretty, you know. And, like, you know, he was pretty, so, you know, maybe that was the case, I don't know, but they didn't care, you know what I mean? These people did not care. Like, the grunge people were not, they were kind of like following from Queen, which a lot of people nowadays, like heavy metal likers, like guys that are no homo radio people, which is what I call people that are like, you know, they refuse to like any band that would cause their friends to like be like, you're gay for liking that, you know what I mean? Like, no homo radio, you know what I mean? Like, you only will listen to bands that like will make people all around you know for sure that you are a straight, masculine, manly man, you know, like, you can't like anything. But, like, the thing is, there are new things, like, these days that in the past you wouldn't have been allowed to like. Like, back in the day, saying that you liked the Beatles was like saying you liked the Backstreet Boys. I'm not kidding. Like, the Beatles were the Backstreet Boys of their era. Like, they really were. Like, and somebody brought this to my attention on the internet, and I was like, you know, that's true. Like, they were the boy band of their era. I mean, they did play their own instruments and stuff. I mean, they were real musicians, but, like, so is Justin Bieber. You know what I mean? Justin Bieber plays his own instruments. He plays, like, 8 instruments. He plays a lot of instruments. He started on drums when he was 2 years old, and he wrote a very long piano song for his grandmother when he was 9 years old. Like, he's a serious musician. Like, honestly, he can do that stuff, and he, you know, has written some songs now. Like, he didn't at first on his first album, but now he has, and it's not even that bad. Like, that one, if you like the way you look that much, then you can go and F yourself, you know. Like, that's just funny as heck to me. I'm sorry, but, like, it's just funny. I'm not a fan of Justin Bieber's music, especially like older stuff, because he obviously didn't write that. But like, the thing is, like, people will say like Ozzy Osbourne's a real musician, and it's the greatest example I can think of, because he literally wrote like one song ever, lyrics only, and he plays no instruments whatsoever. Like, Ozzy Osbourne, I'm not bashing him as a person or like a singer, because he is a singer. He's not really a musician. He's just a singer. Like, he doesn't play any instruments, which I don't really either. But like, I'm just saying, like, if we're judging people by whether or not they're a real musician or not, we need to judge them on their actual abilities, because Justin Bieber can play guitar and piano and very good at drums. Like, he is really good at drums, like, really good. Like, sorry, Shakira can play like 5 different instruments. She wrote her first poem when she was 4 years old, and it won an award. Like, she can speak like 5 languages, which that doesn't really have anything to do with music, but she's just impressive as a person all around. She's like literally a genius. She has like a Mensa level IQ. But anyway, Shakira's a real musician. She writes her own lyrics. Taylor Swift writes her own lyrics, plays guitar. Actually, Taylor plays like 4 or 5 instruments too. These people, Taylor Swift plays like 5 instruments. Justin Bieber plays like 5 instruments. Shakira is like super good at harmonica too, like especially harmonica. She is really good at that. It's really cool to watch her. But I really like Shakira. Like, I like Taylor Swift somewhat, her music somewhat. I don't really like Justin Bieber's music personally. It's just not my taste. And Shakira, I love her. Like, I love her songs. Like, her songs are good. Like, she's a good writer. She writes really good songs. She has for a long time. And back when she was living in Colombia or wherever she came from, like, she's Colombian. But, she became famous, you know, all throughout South America. And she was like a rock star. She wasn't pop. She was like rock. She was seriously like a rock person. But anyway, she was very famous there way before she came to America. But anyway, just the whole point of it is, you know, guys, people, mostly men mainly, will say like, like, oh, I like real musicians like Ozzy Osbourne, not like Justin Bieber. And it's like, Ozzy doesn't play any instruments. He never, like, he didn't even write songs. Like, I personally don't like his music at all, any of it, none of it. And I don't really have a problem with him as a person, but like, he's not really a real musician because he doesn't play any instruments at all. Like, he's a singer. He's no more of a musician than Britney Spears. Like, at all. And which I have words about her, but I'm not gonna do it on this. But like, the whole point of this is not just about music either. It's like every media, all forms of art, you know, like you go back in the day and people that, you know, when Queen came out and people were fans of Queen, but then people found out that Freddie was bisexual, and then they did that video where they dressed up in drag and, you know, all these things, you know, they were so, people were like, yeah, rock band, but then they saw him, and then Freddie, you know, came out kind of, and, you know, people found out he was gay or bisexual, and, you know, and people probably still to this day, most people don't know that Freddie Mercury is not white. He is Persian, you know, which he moved to India, so I guess some people, you know, he kind of claimed, you know, Indian heritage because he lived there, but like actually he's Persian. And so he's Middle Eastern, and he's not white at all. He's not even a little bit white. He's not European at all. I mean, he's British, but, you know, nationality wise, but anyway, he's not white. And he was never an American ever. So anybody that's like a white supremacist, American nationalist, or bigot, whatever, like, nothing about Freddie is anything you like. Like, you hate him. You should hate him. If you like his music, you would hate him. Like, people like that. People freaked out. Like, when he came out of the closet or whatever happened, I wasn't there. When people found out that he was bisexual, You know, and even with, like, the drag queen video, the drag dressed up as women, like, people were freaked out. They were like, we don't like this. We don't like this guy. He's freaky. You know, Freaky Freddy. He's crazy. He's, you know, they didn't like him. They thought he was, you know, flamboyant. He was very flamboyant. They didn't like it. You know, so I wish I would have been there when, like, all these Queen fans were like, I'm a hardcore, you know, I like rock only, no homo radio only, blah, blah, blah. And then they find out that he's, like, bisexual. So I just want to see their faces. And then, like, most people, you know, bigoted people are bigoted in every way. So they probably thought he was white because he is white passing, you know. And so, you know, I just like telling people things that ruin things for them. And it's their fault. Like, I don't need to ruin things for people, like, spoiling it, or, like, good people. But, like, if somebody's racist and they love, like, Troy and Bellisario, they're like, I don't, you know, if somebody's completely racist and they love Troy and Bellisario, I want to be the one to look them in the face and be like, she's black. Her mother is black. She's half black. Like, I want them to know that. I want to shove it in their face. Because it's their fault. You know what I mean? Like, it's bad for them to be racist. Like, they deserve it. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not just ruining something for people, like, in general, but, like, these kind of people. It's like, well, guess what? And, like, I think that's a big issue now. But, like, back in the day, like, people today will be like, oh yeah, I would have liked, you know, or I like Soundgarden, I always have. People like me always have. They're manly. It's like, no, they weren't manly. They never were manly. People made fun of them. People hated them because they weren't manly enough. And if you would have been your age now, back then, you would have freaking hated them. And I was there. I was, you know, I can't say for Queen or, you know, the Beatles, which I know the Beatles were, like, loved by teenage girls. That's the thing. It really gets on my nerves because anything liked by teenage girls is seen as, like, not to be taken seriously. And it ticks me off. Because what's that matter? Like, they don't, you know, it's, like, automatically written off as bad if teenage girls like it. And that ticks me off. Like, very much. Like, it's like, you don't, that's not the basis for whether something is bad or good. Like, sometimes they like crap, you know, or they're not very picky, you know what I mean, or they like it because the boy's cute or something, like Justin Bieber. But, like, it doesn't automatically mean that something's bad just because teenage girls like it. And all these people claiming they love the Beatles, it's like, you would have hated the Beatles. The Beatles were the Backstreet Boys of their day. They were the Justin Bieber of their day. The Beatles were a boy band, basically. And I've talked to people that lived during this time, and they were like that. Like, they were like, oh, the Beatles, you know, British Invasion, you know, all that stuff. And people that lived in that day, you know, didn't like them because they were like that. You know what I mean? Because teenage girls loved them so much. You know, the cool, edgy people liked Creedence Clearwater. And the bubblegum pop type people like the Beatles. Like, that was the thing. So, like, people being like, oh yeah, no homo radio people. Like, that's just what I call them. I just explained why. So, I'm just going to shorten it and be like, the no homo radio people today are like, oh yeah, I love the Beatles. They're such a real band. They, you know, they, all this influence, blah, blah, blah. Which real musicians have been influenced by the Beatles a lot. And I think that's why, like, well, you know, the Beatles are real musicians too, but I'm just saying, like, musicians that are famous have came out, like, Chris Cornell loved the Beatles, and that was, like, the first band he ever really liked. You know, he was obsessed. But he didn't care if they were, like, popular with teenage girls. You know, like, he didn't give a crap. And, people like him and, like, Prince and people, well, you know, Prince is a good example too. Like, all these guys hated him. It's like, why is he getting women? He looks gay. He blah, blah, blah. And probably a lot of people think Prince is gay, which he still gets hate for that. Like, his way of being. And he was totally 100% straight. Like, he wasn't even bisexual. And, I mean, I'm sure he didn't care. Like, I'm not saying he never experimented, because you know how he is. He probably did. But he didn't care. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't care about that. But, he gets a lot of hate still, because he, you know, but he did influence a lot of great people and, you know, all this stuff. So I think when, like, Chris Cornell and, like, people started getting popular now, and they're like, well, I like the Beatles, and then people are like, oh yeah, the Beatles were cool, I like them. It's like, but you wouldn't have, you know what I mean? Like, they were the Justin Bieber of their time. And then it's just like Rage Against the Machine. It's like all these people like listening to it, which Nirvana was popular when Kurt was alive, and, you know, popular with these people that think like that. But he hated them, you know, like, so bad, and they misunderstood what he was about, and, like, people misunderstand all the time what, like, Rage Against the Machine is about, and Buckcherry, like, I didn't even know they had this song, because I'm not, like, a huge Buckcherry fan, but I like them, you know, when I hear their songs, I like them, you know what I mean, but, like, I don't go buy their album and all this, and, like, listen to B-sides, or things like that, you know what I mean, like, I'm just a casual listener. And, which, you know, I knew they were vulgar, but I saw them live recently, and that guy, the lead singer, Josh, I think his name is, he can freaking dance like nobody's business. Like, that guy can dance. Like, I mean, he's got this thing about him. Like, he's, like, belly dancing, you know, like, it's hot. But anyway, and he's not even, well, I mean, you know, he looks like he's on drugs, which I'm sure that's part of his aesthetic, but whatever. He seems like a really cool guy. Like, the stuff he was saying about live passionately, like, he gave this big speech about living passionately, and, like, all this stuff that's totally my jam, you know what I mean? And, like, just talking about this song, like, where he's talking about, like, how, I mean, he got onto the audience even, because he was like, and this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. He was like, this song is about alcohol and how it ruins your life, or something like that. And people were cheering like crazy. And he's like, no, it's not good. It's not good. This is not a celebration of drinking. It was basically like an AA meeting, and people were still like, and somebody freaking handed him a drink. And he's like, I don't want that shit, you know, like, I don't want that SHIT. And, like, I was like, and people were calling him rude afterwards for saying that. I'm like, he just basically told you he was, like, on the wagon. Like, he didn't say that, but anybody paying attention would, like, think that, you know, from what he was saying. He's like, alcohol makes you a taker. And people were like, yay, I'm a taker, I like being a taker. And I'm like, what the freak is wrong with you? Like, and he's like, this is not a happy song. That's not a party and woohoo happy song. This is a song about this, you know, and people still didn't get it, no matter what he said. And I'm just standing there, like, I feel for him so badly. I wish I could say, like, me right here, I get it. Like, at least one person gets it here. Like, I just want you to know that, like, it's not going over everyone's head, and they're, you know, I felt bad for him, you know what I mean? Not to get his attention, or, like, be like, ooh, a famous person talked to me or looked at me. I don't care about that. I just wanted him to know that somebody got it, so he would feel better, you know what I mean, about it, because I can imagine how that feels. But, and, you know, I've heard from people personally, like, how that feels, like, you're trying to sing about something sad, and people are like, woohoo. I mean, it even annoys me when other people do that. They're like, yeah, I want to swing from the chandelier, party, 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 and it's like, she wants to die. Do you not understand that? Like, she wants to hang from the chandelier by her neck. She wants to hang herself and die. Why don't you get that? Anyway, it's very sad songs. But anyway, it ticks me off. But that guy is just, and anyway, so they start singing this song I've never heard before, and he's like, F your teachers, the founding fathers, F them all. And I'm like, this is my jam. But I'm like, you don't know where you're at right now. Like, I literally get yelled at for, like, not being obnoxiously patriotic. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm not obnoxiously overly patriotic, which that's basically anywhere here in the United States, you have to be overly obnoxiously patriotic, or you getting, you know, they even had a Frasier episode about it. Or, like, people will yell at you. But especially here. Like, there are some places where it's like, oh, yeah, you know, like, they feel you on, like, this place is not perfect, and the history is all lies, and blah, blah, blah. some people get it, but, like, this area particularly, like, him saying F the Founding Fathers, I'm like, okay, this is my jam. This is exactly my jam. Like, so beyond what you even know. Like, dude, it's so my jam. But, like, the fact that he was, like, at that place where all these people are, like, super, like, patriotic and redneck and all this, and I'm like, whoa, he's gonna get lynched. Lucky for him, nobody was listening to a thing he actually said, so it's a good thing that people weren't, like, actually paying attention to the words, or they would have been, like, shooting at him. But anyway, so, but that's, like, Paul Ron being, like, Rage Against the Machine, blah, blah, blah. I like them, and they're like, we don't like you. Like, you are exactly the type of person we've always sung about. And they have not turned political. Since the beginning of the band, their name has been Rage Against the Machine. What did you think that meant? You know what I mean? Like, did you not understand that the whole purpose of the band, like, everything about that band is political and always has been? Like, their name of the band is political. Like, they're, raging against the machine. And it's not just, like, edgy gamers in their basement, joining the alt-right and being mad at their parents for making them, try to find a job. Like, that's not the kind of, like, thing that they're, like, you know what I mean? Like, people think they're rebels if they're, like, joining the alt-right. You're not being a rebel. You're doing exactly what the system wants you to do. You're playing right into their hands. Like, this is what it's always been. The machine has always been people like you. I mean, no, you're not being the rebel. You know what I mean? Like, if you were being the rebel, the history books that you read in school would not have matched what you think. You know what I mean? I mean, honestly. It's like, oh, they want us to hate Nazis, so we're going to rebel and like them. It's like, the reason that they had to teach us to not like Nazis is because they were so bad that, like, they couldn't lie out of it. Like, which, they're not much worse than the Founding Fathers. I mean, they're not worse because they did the same thing. They did the same exact thing. Even longer. Like, we celebrate that, oh, Christopher Columbus found America. It's like, he didn't find anything. It was already, what do you mean find? Like, there was already people here. And not only that, if we're talking about people from Europe finding it, Vikings were here way before Christopher Columbus. For 300 years they were settled in Greenland, and they came down to the coast and hung out here. And when they tried to move west, the Native Americans were like, nah. This is our place, get out. And they were at full capacity at that time, and I'm not going to get into a history lesson, but it's all bullcrap. And it's like, but all this bullcrap, and, like, there were some shows back in the 50s, 40s, the government instituted, this is a real thing, they put out movies, propaganda movies, specifically to tell people how to live in the 1950s. I watched a video on YouTube about it and saw some of the videos, like, think, like, Reefer Madness. Or, like, Johnny Gets a Date. When should I go steady? Those kind of videos. Why the freak did anybody ever make those? That's freaking weird when you think about it. It's like, they don't show those kind of videos anymore. Because it's like, I mean, I saw videos in school, like train safety or, like, the DARE program. Which is totally, I'm not even going to get into it. But, like, these were videos about, like, you should get married at age 22 to a boy of your same race. Like, these were the kind of videos they were putting out in the 1950s. Like, stuff that was very personal and nobody's business, and stuff that didn't even matter. It's like, well, it's always been like this. It's basically like programming, brainwashing people into being the town of Stepford, only it's the entire United States. And people still believe these things. Like, nobody before then was acting like that. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at the 1950s way of life, the way they tried to pretend like it was, it never was like that. It's like the good old days. They weren't really good. You know what I mean? Like, there was never a good time. In the 1950s, they were kidnapping Native American babies and giving them to white people because they wanted them to grow up and act more white. That's bullcrap. That's Nazi behavior, okay? It's all bullcrap. But anyway, the whole point is, like, but they put out these videos, and then they try to make, like, the government actually does, like, dictate what gets made as far as movies and blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, certain military movies, they're like, no, that makes us look too bad. You know, like, you have to make it to where the Americans are the heroes. Like, the government actually does this. I'm not kidding. Like, it is proven. It's not even a secret. Like, it's not a secret. They literally won't let them, like, make certain movies if it makes us look too bad. And that's why, like, Stranger Things has changed a little. They're still trying to skirt around it to be like, we don't like Russians, but, like, you know, currently there's, like, a thing about that. So it kind of, like, they're kind of trying to skirt around it. Like, remember when we don't like them and why? But, like, anyway, and it's not because of communism. People are like, oh, Stranger Things is now anti-socialism. I'm like, no, it's not. Freak. It's anti-authoritarian. That's the problem with, like, because people point to, like, socialist things and they're like, well, look at socialist Russia. I'm like, that the problem wasn't the fact that it was socialist, it was authoritarian. That was the problem. You're thinking of authoritarian. You don't know what words mean. Freak. Like, anyway. It's like helping people financially, spreading the wealth is not what was the problem. The problem was controlling the people. The authoritarian part of it was what was bad. Why don't you understand that? Like, an economy can't be good or bad morally. An economic system does not have a moral basis. It just depends on how it's went about enforcing it. Okay? And, like, capitalism in and of itself, if things were in a perfect world, you know what I mean? Like, a free market where things of value get whatever, you know, like, it's not morally wrong, you know what I mean? But income inequality is bad for everyone. Like, it is bad for everyone. But that's not to say that, like, everyone has to make exactly the same amount. I understand why doctors would get paid more. Because they save lives. You know what I mean? That makes sense. But at the same time, you know, people working at McDonald's have to live as well. And no, these jobs are not for teenagers. Like, I'm not going to get into an economic thing right now because that's not what this is about. But anyway, it's not that socialism is bad. We've been taught that it's just morally wrong, and that's stupid. Like, or Democrats are morally wrong. Like, I literally, like, when I was, like, kind of a right wing, like, I really thought that, like, it was morally wrong. Like, I didn't think it was morally wrong to be a Democrat, but, like, I thought that, like, I would be, because I'm a Christian, and it's, like, the most important thing to me. And I'm like, I felt guilty for not voting for a Republican. Because I was like, is it a sin? Like, I mean, honestly, and people act like it is. And I'm like, that is insane. Like, Democrats and Republicans are not anything to do with Christianity whatsoever. Neither one is. Okay? Like, there are ideals and, like, policies that can line up with your faith or not, but there's an equal amount of bad and good in both ones. I mean, not really as far as people go, but, like, as far as, like, policies just straight up without any people behind it, like, having opinions, they're equally bad and good. I mean, they have faults. Both of them have faults. Especially Democratic, like, politicians. But as far as, like, the people, they don't have the same amount of bad people. in both parties. I'm sorry, it's not the same level. Like Antifa versus fascist, like, they're not equally bad. They are not equally bad. I don't care what anybody says. They're not equally bad. Like, one side is throwing milkshakes at people in power, and the other side is Nazis. If one side is Nazis, you always side with the other part. Like, unless there's, like, a group of Nazis versus a group of KKK, then just screw them all. Like, I don't know what you, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know, like, but if, like, somebody is just specifically mad at Nazis because they're Nazis, those people are not bad ideologically. I mean, they might be bad individuals, and they might be violent individuals, but their ideology is not what's bad, because they're anti-fascist. Who's not anti-fascist besides fascists? Like, everybody should be anti-fascist. Like, there should not be, there's either fascist or anti-fascist. You can't be on, like, the fence about this. You know what I mean? Like, if you're kind of okay with fascists, then you're bad. You're a Nazi sympathizer. That's bad. You're wrong. There is no gray area. It's wrong to be for Nazis. Or, like, indifferent about Nazis. Being indifferent about Nazis is wrong. Okay? It's wrong. It's bad. Like, it's morally wrong to be indifferent about Nazis. But, you know, all that blah, blah, blah political stuff. But still, we have these people that don't understand that, like, art has always been propaganda or, you know, anti-government. Like, I don't know what these people think Woodstock was about. Like, but mostly art is left wing. Like, the reason that most art, and it's not controlled by some deep state, it's because artists are usually empathetic people. It takes a lot of empathy to write a song or a book or, you know, create art. Like, you know, it's just, in general, true artists are empathetic people. And empathetic people tend to be against racism and sexism. And the right wing, you know, tend to be racist and sexist. Even if they're not specifically, like, on purpose racist and sexist, they want traditional. They want family life. They want 1950s. They want nuclear families. They want mom and dad and one boy and one girl in Stepford, the town of Stepford. They want traditional things. Artists are all the opposites. Like, they don't care about tradition. You know, they want a revolution. Like, they're rebels. They're that kind of people. It's just their personality makes them tend to lean left because of that. And, you know, I'm not saying, like, Republicans are all bad or right wing is bad all the way at all, but, like, most of the people in power, as far as Republicans go, and even the people in power as far as, like, Democrats that are super rich and politicians that are Democrats, like, not all of them, but, like, you know, the government as a whole are the villains in almost every movie you've ever seen. Like, you can't be mad because now you finally, like, they have to make it so overt, they have to make it so obvious, because you can't watch, you know, you're watching The Little Mermaid, and, or, that's not really that political, but, like, say you're watching a movie, or The Golden Girls, okay, this is perfect. You're watching The Golden Girls, and for some reason it's not obvious to you that, like, this show is supremely liberal, okay, for some reason. Or you're watching All in the Family, and you don't realize that it's satire, and that Archie Bunker is an example of what not to be like, because he's always proven wrong in every episode, and the guy that played Archie Bunker was completely, like, an activist for being against racism, and you're not supposed to emulate this character. So you watch all those, and you don't get that. And then you watch Andy Griffith, and he talks about how, you know, you don't need to carry a gun around because people should respect the man and not the weapon, and not fear the weapon. That is a quote from Andy Taylor. He was against guns. Andy Griffith was completely liberal. So you're thinking about the past, like Golden Girls and Andy Griffith show and All in the Family. Back when things weren't political. You know those shows were political. You just think they were on your side. But they weren't. You're just not understanding that they are not on the right-wing side at all. They never were. But Leave It to Beaver, I never watched that, but like, Lucy and Desi, well, he was an immigrant, so what do you do with that? They had an immigrant as the main character, which I didn't like Ricky as a person, but not because he was an immigrant, obviously, but like, it was just kind of controlling and misogynistic, but whatever. But anyway, you're watching those shows and you don't realize that they're political and they're not on your side. But then like stuff comes out where they make it so obvious that you're just like, or you're just primed and like expecting them to be, so you're waiting for somebody to attack you at all times because you're defensive, because your whole life is about this now, because that's how things are for everybody now for some reason. Like, it's just so much drama that, like, it's on your mind. So you're watching, like, the Avengers, and they're like, oh, let's help this little boy. He's, not white. And they're like, well, this is too political. I've got to get out of here. You know what I mean? And, like, if you had been watching it 10 years ago, you wouldn't have even noticed. You know what I mean? So it's at the forefront of your mind, for one thing. But if you go back and watch anything else, it's always been like that. But, like, what bothers, and people on the left are noticing it more, too. Like me, like, I've noticed more things than I used to. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even notice. There was this Cheerios commercial where I didn't notice at all, but, like, now that somebody on the internet brought it up, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that is a thing that happened. But I could care less. But there was a Cheerios commercial where this little girl was talking to her mom, and, they're talking about how the Cheerios are good for your heart, and then she goes in the living room, and the mom goes in the living room, and, like, she had put a bunch of Cheerios on her dad's heart. He was asleep on the couch, and she put a pile of Cheerios right over his chest, and I'm like crying, because that's sweet as heck and cute, and, like, the whole, you know what I mean? Like, the whole point of the commercial was about that. I was paying attention to that part of it. But apparently, like, the dad was black and the mom was white. And I didn't even think, like, interracial couple, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even notice, really. Like, it just didn't even register with me that they were not the same race, I guess. Which race is a social construct. Race is not real. But anyway, people went crazy on the internet and was, like, mad about it. I was like, are you freaking serious? Like, the fact that anybody would even notice that blows my mind. Like, why are you sitting there watching a Cheerios commercial worried to death about, like, what color this couple is? Like, that is so stupid in the first place. But the fact that, like, people actually care and, like, disagree with interracial couples is, like, it's 2019. What is your problem? Like, why do you have a problem with that? Why is it your business? There's literally no reason for you to care about this. It's so dumb. I don't even understand why anybody would, like, care about that at all. Like, I can't even comprehend why someone would care about that at all. Like, it just blows my mind, because I'm like, I can't even, like, why would you care? I don't understand why you would even care at all. It's insane. It's so stupid. But now, when I watch that commercial, I'm like, oh, good. This show makes people that I don't like mad. That's all the better, because it ruins their day, and I don't like them. But, like, I notice things more now, because people get mad about everything. And, on most of the time, I'm happy about it. Just like Kimmy Schmidt, you know what I mean? Like, most of that show is, like, just hilarious. But, like, there's a lot of politics in it that are not really that obvious. So, I can tell people to watch it and not be afraid that they're going to come at me, like, mad, because it's too political now. And like, blah, blah, blah. Everything's too political now. It's like, the reason you're really mad, and like the left-wing people, they know that things are not really getting more political, but like, it's just a thing that's on people's mind more. And also the people that write it, you know, you can't help when you're writing something, like, things slip in because it's on your mind. You know what I mean? Or like, or you purposely put it in there because you want to, and it's really not anybody's business or place to tell you not to. But anyway, so... anyway, people on the left do notice it too, and like, you know, or they talk about like the old movies, like, oh, you know, Golden Girls was so woke, or like Peter Pan was racist, but like they're not like mad about Peter Pan or want to ban it or anything. They're just like, wow, that was racist, you know what I mean? But like they don't plan to do anything about it. It's, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow, we need to not do that. You know, we need to make cartoons better than that now. You know what I mean? Like, that's all that really comes out of that. Nobody really, like, gets mad and, like, stomps around angry about it. But, you know, I'm not offended by the cartoon Peter Pan. I really don't like it. I never did. I don't like Peter Pan as a person. Like, his character, he's for some reason, like, people don't realize that he's like the villain of the story. But anyway, the reason that right-wing people have such a problem with things being too political now is because, you know, they're mad because they're realizing that they think and have the same beliefs as most of the villains in these stories. Like, if you've ever watched a movie, any movie, in your entire life, and I told you, and I told you the plot of something where these Native Americans have land, and it's, you know, sacred to them because they've buried people there, their families. Their families are buried there, and the government and big oil company wants to put a pipeline through their land and destroy their land and possibly destroy the river that, like, supplies, like, 4 or 5 different states at least with all their water supply. So, like, if anything goes wrong, if there's even a little leak in this pipeline, it will destroy the entire river for, who knows, forever, basically. For, you know, the water supply for, like, several states, and, like, you know, they're going to destroy the environment, basically. It's not even a question of if, it's when. Because this is what happens every time. I mean, it already has. So, you know, if there's a plot to a movie where there's Native Americans trying to protect the land and environment from an oil company and the government goes there and literally attacks them with attack dogs and rubber bullets and pressurized hoses, and they end up in the hospital, and they arrest over 800 of them. Who is the bad guy in that movie? If you've ever seen a movie, you know who the bad guy is. There is not even a little bit of a question. Like, they are completely, like, if you watch the most recent, like, I think it was the second Ninja Turtles movie, or maybe the first one. Either way, I'm like, this is real life. Because what they did is they were putting a disease out into the air because they had created a medicine that cures that disease. So they were going to try to make a bunch of money from selling that medicine. I'm like, this is not fiction. This is exactly what real life is. Like, you were not confused about who the villain was. You know what I mean? Like, making medicine costs thousands of dollars. Making people sick on purpose so they will need that medicine that only you have. It's not confusing who the villain is. And that's what makes people mad when they watch these things and say they're too political. Because capitalists in movies and people like the alt-right and Nazis and right-wing people, you know, are the same as all the villains in all these movies. Like, you know, you're not sitting there watching The Karate Kid and cheering for the kid that's not Ralph Macchio because you're not Barney Stinson. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're Barney Stinson, you're not cheering for the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, or even like Dumbo. People got mad because they took elephants out of circuses, but like, when we watched Dumbo, we weren't confused about who the bad guy was. We weren't happy when, they locked up Dumbo's mother, and he was sad about it. Like, and when they were beating the elephants and being mean to them and mistreating them, we were not mad at the elephants. We were not mad. We wouldn't have been mad if somebody would have came and set them free from the evil circus. You're not confused about who the villain is in that movie. And that's why movies make things very clear for people most of the time, except unless it's Fight Club, when people don't understand that Tyler Durden is absolutely the villain, and he's like one of the worst ones of all time. He's a terrorist. But anyway... Which, the narrator is actually the bad guy. Like, people are like, even if you realize Tyler is the bad guy, you're probably going to be on the narrator's side, which is wrong, because they're the same person, and the narrator is a jerk too, and he sucks. Like, he has somewhat of a moral, he has just, like, a pinch of, like, morality, so, like, he feels bad about it, and he has a little bit of guilt, but, like, he's the bad guy too. Like, he is the bad guy. There is no Tyler Durden, so Edward Norton is the bad guy. He sucks. Like, he's a bad person. He's not a good person. Like, people don't understand the whole point of that movie. But anyway, I mean, as far as, like, Tyler talking about, like, we shouldn't buy things we don't want or don't need to impress people we don't like, that's true. But, like, he sucks. Like, he literally is a bad person. But anyway, his whole, like, oh, well, they told us it was going to be rock stars and movie stars when we grew up. And I'm like, you're Brad Pitt. You are a movie star. But anyway, if he didn't look like Brad Pitt, it would be so much easier for people to realize what a terrible person he is. And Edward Norton in that movie, which I guess his name is Tyler. I mean, honestly, like, instead of, like, he's Tyler. Like, Edward Norton played Tyler as well. And possibly his name was Tyler. It's, his name was probably Tyler. Who knows? But anyway... the point is, most of the time in movies, they make it a lot more clear who the villain is. And what makes people mad is they watch these movies and they realize, like, oh, everything that I think about politics and, like, what should happen with, like, big oil should definitely destroy the environment is bad. Like, I'm the villain. I'm the bad guy. Like, watch Jessica Jones, like, the moment that Trish realizes that she's the bad guy, which with her situation it was a little bit different, but like I just want to use that as a gif or like a meme for people, because it's like you're watching these movies and not realizing that you're the bad guy. And like some movies mess it up pretty bad, some movies don't get it right, just like Pocahontas. Like, oh, they were fighting each other, they both should have decided to get along. It's like, that's not reality. The white people were the bad guys. Sorry. Not sorry. Actually, it's not my fault. They shouldn't have did that. But, like, she was not... Her family was not doing that stuff. They weren't... I mean, they didn't trust these new people, no. But this was their land. They had every right to defend it. They didn't go, bother somebody else. Somebody else came and bothered them. So, even if they had been violent, it would have been justified. But they weren't. They're just like, hey... yeah, we'll try to help you, but, like, we can only do so much. And then the white people were like, you don't have any more, harvest for us? We're going to shoot you if you don't give us everything you have. That's what actually happened. And then they took Pocahontas, and then she died before she was, like, 21. Yeah, they kidnapped her and made her marry a white guy, and he raped her, and they had a baby together. And he used her as a marketing technique. He took her to Europe to show her off and be like, sponsor our trip back to North America. Whatever. They used her. Look at this beautiful native. You can come and have beautiful natives. I'm like, you're freaking... It's just so annoying. But anyway, when movies tell the truth like that, and then people realize that they are the bad guy, they get all mad. Which... I'm not saying that's never happened to me. That I've not watched something that's like, oh, I was wrong. You know what I mean? I was wrong for thinking, I can't remember a specific moment, but, like, it probably didn't have anything to do with politics. It was probably more to do with, like, a relationship or something. But, like, well, yeah, I do remember watching a movie where... it made me realize, because, like, she had to choose between two guys, and it made me realize which one I should, like, it made me realize which one I loved more, or loved, period. And I was like, I was wrong for even entertaining the thought of talking to this other guy, you know what I mean? Like, I should have, but, you watch something like that and you realize, like, something that you did wrong or you made the wrong decision. All you have to do is, like, change it. You can learn from it. You can be like, oh, I was wrong. Maybe I'm the bad guy. You don't have to get mad at it and hate it and be like, oh, no. This is, no. Like, you could just change. Like, that would be so much simpler. Like, change your opinion. Like, big oil is the bad guy. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, big pharma, big oil, it's pretty obvious. Like, it's not that complicated. If you support them, then you're probably part of the problem. Like, we all need to buy gas. I understand that. We all need jobs. But, like, if you're watching Chernobyl being like, oh, I'm totally on the side of the government. They should keep covering up what's wrong with these things so that this can keep happening. Like, you're the bad guy. It's not hard to figure out, like, whose side you should be on. Like, they should stop making those control rods like that. That's all. Like, it's not a hard answer. Usually. I mean, when we watch things where it's like Russia, so you're like, oh, their government sucks. But when we bring it back here, it's more complicated. Or we watch things about this World War II, and it's like, Nazis were bad. Like, and you're like, obviously, but it's like, but when our government does the same things they did and has done the same things they did, they're bad too. And you're like, wait, no. Or, like, you try to find excuses for it, like slavery, and you're like, well, they enslaved Irish people too. I'm like, that doesn't make it okay. What is wrong with you? Like, well, we did it to some white people, so it makes it all okay. Like, no, it's still bad. What is wrong with you? Like, it doesn't cancel it out. Like, two bad things don't cancel each other out. Like, what the freak? But anyway. And also, that's not an equivalent thing, because some Irish people, you can't look at an Irish person and automatically know they're Irish. Like, they could run away. You know what I mean? It's not the same. You can't, like, even, and they became more accepted into society. They were just using them for the work. They didn't think they were lesser of people. They just, you know what I mean? Like, or they didn't care. They were greedy and lazy and stupid. But it wasn't the equal thing. It wasn't exactly equal. I mean, it was bad, both, it was very bad that they did that to Irish people too, but, like, it wasn't equal because they had more of a chance to escape. I mean, if they ran away and they walk into a store, nobody's gonna be like, there's an Irish! You know what I mean? Like, you can't exactly, know for sure that somebody's Irish just by looking at them. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Anyway, the whole point, though, is, like, I'm not sorry that, all these shows and movies and TV and all these, bands or whatever, like, you listen to it and you realize, oh, I'm the bad guy in this song, or, like, I'm the kind of person they're talking about in this song, which happens a lot, and usually people are fans of the music that actually doesn't like them, which it's just, like, really annoys me. I just want to tell them, like, that, like, this song is talking exactly about people like you being bad people, and you are, like, head banging to the song, but whatever. Like, this guy that wrote the song doesn't like you. I just want you to know that. Like anybody that bullies people and then goes and listens to Stone Sour, but or wait, is it Stone Sour? Yeah, Through the Glass. Anyway, I know a lot of people that are bullies that listen to that song, and I just want to be like shaking them, like, you don't understand this, otherwise you would be offended. Because you are exactly like the kind of people he's talking about this song that suck. But anyway. Or it's just like that song, like, I literally have seen people, like, headbanging to, he's the one that likes all their pretty songs, and he likes to sing along, but he don't know what, and he likes to shoot his gun, but you don't know what it means. Like, I've seen people, like, enjoying that song that are the people that he's talking about. So it's kind of funny in a way, but it kind of also annoys me because I just want to be like, he's talking about you, like specifically, exactly like you. But anyway, I just have a problem with people like that. I just want to tell everybody, like, Freddie Mercury's not white. So if you're racist, you can't like that band. It's gatekeeping is what it is. And what the thing is, it's really annoying because people are like, oh, I can't believe you like Soundgarden. I'm like, no, wait a minute. Back in the day, Soundgarden was too girly for you, and now you're acting like I can't like it because I'm a girl? Bull crap. Or like Blind Melon. I had somebody literally be shocked because I knew who Shannon Hoon was. I'm like, why? And they're like, because you're a girl. I'm like, what is in penises that makes people understand music? What do you think is in your penis that has anything to do with music? Like, we have the same amount of ears. I had MTV growing up. I don't know what you... Headbangers Ball came on everybody's television. Shannon Hoon was not invisible to women. Like, women could see him. Like, I don't even understand why you would say that. Like, what logic are you using when you think that women can't know stuff about music? Music is not gendered. Like, even football. Like, people are like, oh, do you know who won this year's Super Bowl? Otherwise, you don't really like football. I'm like, I don't give a crap who won back then. I like watching football now because it's freaking enjoyable, which I don't really like it anymore. But, like, if I want to watch football right now and enjoy it right now, in this year, the year 2019, I will like it right now. And that means I like it currently. I don't give a crap who won last year or the year before, even though it was the Patriots every year. I'm a Patriots fan. But, like, the Patriots won a lot. And I care about that. But, like, I know some stuff, like, I like Russell Wilson and, you know, blah, 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 and I know that Peyton Manning's a sexual assaulter and nobody should like him, and, you know, I know some things, but, like, if you're asking, like, who won the, you know, AFC championship in the year 1974, I'd be like, I don't know and I don't care, I don't need to know everything like this, I don't give a crap. Like, nobody gives a crap, actually. You just are trying to gatekeep. That's the kind of gatekeeping that sucks. Or, like, if somebody's like, I like Nirvana, and they're like, oh, what's Kurt Cobain's daughter's middle name? And you're like, he didn't say that in any of his songs, so I don't know why you think that has anything to do with liking his music. And I do know what it is, by the way, but I'm not even going to say it. But it has nothing to do with any of the songs. So it has nothing to do with liking any of his music. So I don't really give a crap. How about that? Like, if I could purposely forget it, it's so unique that I can't really, because, you know, and everybody always says it together. Frances Bean, you know, like, nobody says it, like, separately. They never call her Frances. But, which, actually, she's a good singer, too. Like, she's gorgeous, and she looks so much like... She looks like one of those things where, like, they put people together to see what their kids look like. Like, that's how much she looks like both her parents. Like, it looks like they merged. I mean, they did, but, like, I've never seen anybody look so much like a merging of her two parents. But, like, she's so gorgeous, and she sings really good. And you can kind of hear Courtney's, like, influence in her voice, too. But she's a good singer, and she acts like her dad, like, because she's like, I don't really like Nirvana, so she's like, everybody says I'm just like my dad, but I don't think I am, and I don't even like Nirvana, and I'm like, what you don't understand is you saying that you don't like Nirvana is exactly the type of thing that your dad would have done, like, you know, because, you know, just the fact that she would, I don't even believe that she doesn't like them. I think she has to say that she doesn't like them because her insides compel her to, so that she can... You know, she's doing that to be unexpected because that's exactly what her dad would have done. But I'm like, you don't even know that you're being like your dad by saying that. But it's funny. But anyway, you know, that, but none of that, or me, like, none of me knowing any of that she said that, or reading the interviews, or knowing who she is, or anything, has anything to do with Nirvana's music. I could know all that from the internet and not have ever listened to a song by Nirvana. You know how how much, like, trivia I know about Harry Potter, and I've never read Harry Potter or watched any of the movies. Like, I don't consider myself a Harry Potter fan, but, like, I'll just be scrolling through, like, things on the internet and learn things about, like, you know, I've heard of the Sorting Hat, I know these things about it, you know, because people talk about it, you know, and I see that they talk about it, but I have a good memory too. But, like, I've never read Harry Potter, I've never watched the movies, I have no desire to do either thing. I'm not even a fan of that. I mean, I don't hate it or anything, I'm not, and I might eventually, but I see me more reading the Hunger Games before I read Harry Potter. But you know, I can know all these useless information or facts. You know, I know that Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double got paralyzed from shooting Harry Potter, and that's, like, really sad. I read about that on crack.com, but, you know, it was like an article about things to do with stunt doubles. But, you know, I can learn all these things, and it's like, oh, you must be a really true Harry Potter fan if you know that about his stunt double. It's like, no, never seen it. Like, you can know all this useless trivia and never watch the movie or read the book. There's proof right there. I've never read Harry Potter, I've never watched the movies, but I know useless information about the actors. So, that doesn't make me a true fan of any of it, because I've never even read it. I'm not even a fan of it. So, you know, spouting these statistics and facts and, like, RBIs, whatever that is, I don't even know what that is. Like, all these things, like, I can listen to every Blind Melon album in the world repeatedly and love every song and not know the name of the lead singer. I mean, I personally am not going to do that. Like, I personally, like, get obsessed with things and have to learn things, which I've seen, you know, I've read things on the internet about Shannon Hoon, like, just because I want to know what happened to him and, like, talk about his voice and, like, read what people said about his voice because it was so unique. And did Shannon Hoon ever use autotune because it sounds like it, but he didn't because it didn't even exist back then. Like, things like that. Like, I'm an obsessive person. So when somebody tells me that they're a music lover and they love Tool, but they don't know Maynard James Keenan's name, I'm like, I don't believe you are a music lover. Like, that, you know, like, I can't date somebody that's a music liker. Like, I was talking to this guy, and he said his favorite band was Tool, and then, like, he didn't know Maynard James Keenan's name, and I'm like, I don't even really like Tool, and I know that. Like, what is wrong with you? But the thing is, like, it doesn't mean that, like, and it was a boy, so I'm like, see, boys don't know more about music than girls. Like, it makes no sense to even assume that they do, because boys and girls generally both have 2 ears. But, I have access to the internet, too. But, like, he just didn't care as much. You know what I mean? Like, which I never really cared that much. But, like, I care about music. So I hear, you know, I read articles about so-and-so and this and that and the other. Like, and, well, my best friend, you know, my very best friend who killed himself, like, we were best friends for, like, 6 years. And he was a huge Tool fan. He talked about Maynard all the time. So, you know, I can't not know who that is because he talked about him constantly. But, I didn't, like, seek it out. And then, you know, also I read Brian Welch's book, and he talked about him. Like, I mean, you know, you just, if you're a fan of music and your friends are fans of music, you hear things and you learn things, and it's just common knowledge to you because you're, you know, you just pick up on things. But, I mean, it's just casual conversation to music lovers, and that's why I knew, like, that this guy wasn't a music lover, he was a music liker. But it's like, people gatekeep on the dumbest things. It's like, you can't like Nirvana unless you know Frances Bean Cobain and, like, you know, Kurt's mom's name, which I don't know what her name is. But, things like that don't even have anything to do with music. It's like, you like the band, but you don't even understand what the songs are about. So, I think gatekeeping should be more like the way Kurt had it set up. Like, if you're sexist and racist, I hate you and don't listen to my music. That's the kind of gatekeeping we should be doing. Like, if you are homophobic or racist against non-whites, you're not allowed to like Queen because Freddie Mercury was bisexual and Persian. So, if you don't like Persian people, you shouldn't like the band. Like, we need to, like, change what gatekeeping is all about. Like, you're not allowed to like bands like Hootie and the Blowfish if you're racist, or whatever. Anything like that. Or like Kurt Cobain was a feminist. It's like, if you're sexist, you're not allowed to like Nirvana. We should change what gatekeeping is to be more of what the people in the band desire. If you're a capitalist, you're not allowed to like Rage Against the Machine. We should change what gatekeeping is. If we're going to be gatekeeping things, we need to change what kind of gatekeeping goes on. Like, if the lead singer or any member of the band, is someone that you would beat with a baseball bat at a Nazi rally, then you're not allowed to like that band. You know what I'm saying? Like, pretty much, if you're a Nazi, you're not allowed to like, if you are super patriotic, you're not allowed to like the song Born in the USA, because you don't understand that song is not patriotic. Or Okie from Muskogee, that song is actually making fun of people like that, but nobody gets that, so they're just like, woohoo, I'm an Okie from it. And he's like, okay, well, this is the way that gets me the most money, I guess I'll just go along with it. I guess, I don't know. But anyway, this is too long, and my phone's gone dead, and that's all I needed to say. We need to change gatekeeping. We stop gatekeeping based on gender of people listening to the music, or like what kind of little trivia people knows that don't even really matter, and change it to, if you're a racist or sexist, you're not allowed to like certain bands that don't like that kind of stuff. Maybe you can go find a racist band to like. Go like Charlie Daniels. I don't know. Not Charlie Daniels. Who is it? I don't know if he's racist or not. I don't think he is, but, and see, I'm not just gonna, like, assume that somebody that's an old country singer is gonna be racist, because I don't think so. Actually, I learned a lot about not being racist from Garth Brooks. Like, I mean, I never wanted to be racist, but, like, just, Garth Brooks was very anti-racist, and, I heard a lot about it from his music, so that's cool. But, anyway, who was that one? Hank Williams Jr. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. Like, if you're a racist, you can go listen to those kind of songs, but that's it. You can't listen to, like, the Beatles, 'cause, I don't know. You can't listen to anything else, really. Go find some racist people to listen to their music, because you can't listen to Nirvana. And if you're sexist, you can't listen to Nirvana. And probably not Pearl Jam either, because I'm pretty sure Eddie Vedder doesn't like you. And, just saying, like, Oh, and Rob Zombie. Don't listen to him if you're sexist, because he went off on some people for being, mean to this one band of chicks. There's, like, a bunch of girls in a band, and people were like, oh, I don't want to hear a bunch of chicks. And he's like, these women work harder than... He went and commented on every freaking, like, comment. Every comment that was bashing them, Rob Zombie went and, like, tore them up. It was so funny. I was like, he is a feminist. He's great. But anyway, I'm done. New kind of gatekeeping. If you can't appreciate, whatever. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. I'm so tired. And I got things to do. I just started talking about this because I've been thinking about it, but I just read this thing on the internet, and it was, like, ticking me off that people were like, oh, but anyway. That's not exactly what they said, but yeah. I'm done. I gotta be done.